Hi, and welcome to the Chasing Care podcast, where we uncover the hidden world of later life living. Did you know that whilst the UK's ageing population is booming, that only about 1% of over 65s actually live in retirement developments? Compare that to the US, where it's more like 6.5%. That's right. Retirement living communities are one of the UK's best kept secrets. You see, most people think it's a simple choice between struggling at home or moving into a care home. But there's a whole other world out there. The luxury, independence, and support on your terms. So why aren't more people thinking about it? Let's break the silence and explore what retirement living really means, because your later life years should be about thriving, not just surviving. On today's episode, I'm delighted to welcome Ali Powell, Chief Executive and founder of Commercial Acceleration, an award-winning consultancy who'll hopefully help explain what retirement living developments are and how they compare to traditional residential care homes. So before we crack on, hello, Ali. Introduce yourself.
Hi, Gavin. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Delighted to be doing the podcast with you today. So yeah, my name is Ali Powell. I work to help people boost their occupancy in the retirement living and care home sector. So I'm a specialist sales and marketing consultancy.
Okay, so this time you're going to help our listener understand what retirement living, later life living, care homes are all about, which will be amazing. So thanks for taking time out of your day. Let's keep it simple, stupid. What is retirement living?
Yeah, so thanks, Gavin. It's great to be able to clarify the different types of options available. So if we start with retirement living, and then we could go on to care homes and then retirement housing. And there's a useful table I could share with you for anyone who wants to explore that further. But yeah, in simple terms, retirement living is a community-based way of living that enables people to have an independent lifestyle. There's other names we use in the UK and abroad. IRC is a very common one here, which stands for Integrated Retirement Communities, or IRCs. We also say retirement villages or independent living. And these offer a lot of facilities available on site, typically restaurants, cafes, swimming pools, communal lounges, gardens, activity rooms, social events. And they typically have between 60 to 250 apartments.
So why do we not know about this plethora of opportunity in the market, do you think?
I think there is a great need to get that awareness and education out, absolutely, and also to much more positively influence the perception out there. So in England, unfortunately, we have quite a low penetration of retirement villages available compared to other international countries we might talk about, like Australia, New Zealand, America. So we have below 1%, and it's a real supply crisis. So with the macroeconomic tailwinds of the aging population, we all are absolutely aware that there's a tsunami of older people coming through. Yet, unfortunately, we have a real shortage of retirement living options available, and that's been estimated to be about an undersupply of 50,000 homes a year we need to get up to where we need to.
Retirement living schemes, are we talking about private sector, or does this cover across the public sector as well?
Good question. So predominantly, I'd say the majority of operators are living in the self-funding private sector, but there are different options available, which is why it's a good question to ask whether you buy on a full sale basis that we're typically all used to on the open market. There's also the rental option available. And there's other options such as shared ownership, part rent, part buy, enables consumers to have greater choice over what is the actual financial package that's best suited for them. And this is where independent financial advisors, wealth advisors can really help so that you use your money and your equity as best as possible.
Sounds to me as if there's a typical British disconnect here. When thinking about pensions and the like, nobody really plans for those anymore, which is a bit of a shame as everybody needs one. And nobody's really going to be paying for your care because the government doesn't have money. So you've got to plan for that. You've indicated that there's a shortage of supply. Doesn't sound to me as if there's a demand either, because was it Savills, I think, said there's only 1% in the UK that live in these sort of schemes. How are we going to fix this conundrum? And don't tell me your consultancy is perfect for it. No, I'm just joking there. But
yes, absolutely. I can fill them when they are there.
So okay, let's start at the beginning then. We all know, I know what a care home is and a nursing home is. I know what they are because they're everywhere.
Yes, I agree with you on that. I think the point of difference for many people, unfortunately, not you and I, is that they have poor perceptions of what they might have been like 20 or 30 years ago. I think that is a real problem that we come up a lot against. And I wish people would go and look at them today, because some of them are absolutely brilliant.
Are you talking about care homes are absolutely brilliant?
Yeah, yes. Just to your point about care homes. Sorry, then I thought we would go on to retirement villages, but I'm saying, you say that most people know care homes, but yes, unfortunately, I also feel that some people are tainted with poor views from when they saw one of their loved one 10 or 20 years ago, and just have all sorts of negative connotations like bingo and corridors that smell, distastefully.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is that perception which has hung around for many, many years. And research does tend to say, it's out there, that most elderly, or even if you ask the younger generation, their first comment is, if you say to them, do you want to go into a care home when you get older? It's a flat no. It's a flat no. So there's these people that don't want to go into care homes, but what do they want to do? Do we know what they want to do? I mean, what's the difference, for example, between staying in their own home, which they have absolutely love? Most of them probably just love their home. It's familiar. They've got their cat and their dog and, their cups, and they know what the local walks are and community groups. Staying at home, yeah, that sounds logical. So what's the difference between that and what we're talking about here in terms of later life care, retirement living sort of approach?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head there. The majority of people do want to stay at home. There's research into that I could point you to. And when we are working in the retirement living and care sector, that is usually just the number one, let's call it inverted comma, competitor to why people wouldn't be going to retirement living or a care home. And from a sales approach, which is, a lot of the area I work in, that is usually a very good question to pose to the prospect, the potential resident or a family, to say, well, why would you want to move from where you are? It's sort of reverse psychology. And the typical reasons that will come up are, just to list some of them out, loneliness is a massive one. And the community that these environments offer you and the range of activities. Another major motivator or trigger is the hassle of the home care maintenance. People don't want to be doing all the gardening or fixing the plumbing, the water issues all the time. So just to give you two of big reasons there, loneliness and the hassle-free living.
Makes sense. But isn't there the counter argument that it might just be a bit overbearing if you move into these communities, that you feel that you have to be part of it? And it's nice to have it there sometimes, but I don't want it there every minute of every day. Thank you very much. And rah, rah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody is totally entitled to have as much or as little as they want. So they do have activity schedules, such as a puzzle activity morning, or a wine tasting event, or a craft session. There are these going on, and it's for people to decide as much or as little as they want, because a majority of them are included, and hopefully just one or two of them appeal to you, because it is great. We know the benefits of getting out and socializing with people.
Paint a picture for me then. If I was going to go looking for an alternative to staying at home, I could have a live-in carer stay in my own home, I guess, if I've got the space there, and then I get my companion and the support that I need. So that's one choice. Maybe I don't want somebody living in my own home, so I'm going to look for the next alternative, and not a care home. If I was to walk into a space that you might be promoting,
Yeah.
what should I expect to find when I go there? Just paint a picture as to the flavour of what it's all about.
Yeah. So the flavor of what it is all about is a lovely, very welcoming, friendly, independent way of living that makes you feel very safe, because they are absolutely got the highest measures of safety and security going on. And it makes you feel very comfortable in terms of a friendly environment. So if I just mention some of the names, if we're talking about retirement villages, and I said I'm totally unbiased to all of them, because I float around lots of them every year working for them. Some of them that you might know are Inspired Villages, Rangeford Villages, Jewish Care, Adlington, Birchgrove, Extra Care. These are ones that would be around England that hopefully you might have seen driving by. So what you will experience pulling up is, hopefully a very nice looking sense of arrival, with a modern building, absolutely clean and with a great feel. And it's all about the experience there. So it's more of a feeling that we're looking for, versus, I don't really like to talk about this in terms of product and features and benefits. This sounds very real estate. I would much more go on the angle about it's all about the experience of feeling like you have a very friendly place with a great community behind you, with everything you need to feel supported 24/7.
When you say everything you need, what sort of facilities does that encompass?
So there's a full range of facilities, from the absolute highest luxury to scaling it back. So if we take some of the more high-end luxury premium ones, they have wonderful cinemas, wonderful activity rooms, swimming pools,
Mm.
bars, hairdressers. So in terms of storytelling, when we're selling, we can talk about being in a members club is a very common scenario that we mention. So imagine waking up in the morning, going for a calm swim, where you have your movement, and you might have had a personal trainer or nutritionist to help you. Then maybe a lovely spot of breakfast in the morning with some of your friends. Then maybe at 10 o'clock, you go to an activity that you've been looking forward to, maybe a bridge club. Then perhaps you go on your own back to your room for a few hours and relax in your environment. Then maybe you pop down and speak to the concierge who's there 24/7 to ask them for advice of where you might find something that you're looking for around your community or around your local town. So yeah, this is the options of the facilities that are available on hand should you want it. And I think your counter argument would be that other people could, if they were having home care or just living at home, they could drive to places, and it might be 20 minutes or 40 minutes, or they might be along to a social club. So there are different options, but this is all under one roof, making it very simple for people.
You talked about high end.
Yeah.
Is there a middle and low end?
So there is much need in England for more affordable housing. I mean, you will see that is in the news all the time, that, in many different asset classes of the real estate and living sector, we need more affordable housing. And it's absolutely the same in this sector that we're talking about. So there are some options where the proposition is more scaled back. And some of the players that I mentioned a bit earlier, they also have put into the market some more affordable options, such as Thrive or Mayfield. And some more affordable retirement villages would be Extra Care, where there are more options available of support. But yeah, I don't want to have any confusion about what I'm saying in terms of there is absolutely a need for more mid-market and a more affordable option. It's high on everyone's agenda.
In my head, I live in a city, and I do see these schemes. They do seem to be very large, big, tall buildings, and I can see that they've got maybe a hairdresser's on the bottom. I'm sure there's lots of other facilities there. My mind says, watching TV over many years, that in America it's like a gated community, and that's how I perceive the community setup being. Is there such a thing in the UK? Or am I just seeing what I see because I live in a city, but there are alternative layouts to the type of environments? There's a park that they could go to within a scheme. It's gated, and there's facilities on a housing development, as opposed to these big blocks of flat apartment-y sort of things that I see.
Yeah, there are all sorts of different options. And, maybe one day we should do a roadshow together, because
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
experiencing it. Yes. Like, tomorrow I could take you.
Be the camera. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I said, I'm so visual. So like you, when you can just go there within 10 minutes, you've got a whole flavor of the thing. And then you can speak to the incredible staff and residences, which really is brilliant. And I wish everyone did that, all stakeholders, because it would increase everyone's awareness and favorability of this. But yeah, just to hone in on your point there, I would break that up into urban and rural locations. And it would be great to go and see both. Because as you know, the macroeconomics trends are showing there is a shift to more people wanting urban. So there are lots more developments coming up. I could list out many that are being built at the moment and under planning in London and other cities up north. And then there are equally lovely rural places. Some I would call more semi-rural, where you are within walking distance of going to shops, within 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And then there are others where you would need a shuttle bus or a car, because they are much more rural, like 10 minutes away.
And we do know, again, facts, figures, studies have shown that residents that live in these sort of specialist housing areas actually have a better health, because probably they've got higher activity levels, because they're in a like-minded sort of setting. Is that a fair reflection compared to a traditional care home, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I was chatting about this last week, actually, because I'm very data driven and evidence driven. And there is some research reports out from the ILC, the Institute of Longevity Center, and ARCO, and more coming out all the time, showing the benefits of the quality of life on people from, as you say, improvements in both physicality, because they're moving around more, encouraged to move more around more, but also the mental health benefits of isolation and loneliness can be, horrific as well. So yeah, evidence to show that those are addressing both of those. And sorry, I just wanted to come back to what you said about America and gated communities, because something that has been on Netflix recently, which has helped to bring more noise to this conversation, is there's been a series called Man on the Inside, which is set in San Francisco.
I don't know. Man on the Inside. Okay, I'll put it in my phone for later.
I would totally recommend it. Man on the Inside. So that
Okay.
set in a retirement village in San Francisco, and it's a few series of it, and it's quite emotional as well. It goes through lots of the highs, but also the lows. We could put a link in the comments or wherever you will publish this, because it does really show lots of the glory of these places.
That just smacks of me saying to you, so we don't need to go to southern Spain to retire then. That isn't what we need to do.
Yeah.
God, that was a terrible series. I can't even remember what it's called, but I do remember it was about retiring into Spain. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. No, and there is another movie coming out this year as well, which will be very powerful, with Pierce Brosnan in it. And, any celebrity driven thing is going to draw in the big crowds. And that's based on the Thursday Murder Mystery Club, which was, a very popular series about this sector.
Yeah.
I can't unfortunately give you a date for that, but that is coming out. And then that will open up more conversations and PR on this.
How do people make the right decision, do you think, in terms of where they go? You're now painting a picture to me that there's just such a diversity of what a development might look like. You say that there's more developments underway in the planning, being built, but is there like a standard sort of model that the resident should expect as a minimum? I mean, how do they measure what they're getting? And there's 2 layers on this, I think. So one is, what are they looking for? What should they expect? And the second is, are they buying it or are they renting it?
Yeah. Great questions. So in terms of what to expect, what is an integrated retirement community? It is about fitting the criteria of offering 24-hour on-site staff, having optional care or domiciliary services available, and having a restaurant or cafe available for meals. So if I just touch on that quickly, because to the point of these 3 different categories I was saying before, what I've just described is the IRCs, where you don't have that full restaurant cafe experience. And you might just have part-time wardens, and you might just have limited facilities. So maybe just a communal lounge and laundry versus restaurant, cafe, swimming pool, library. That we would classify that as retirement housing. And a common one of those that many people would know, because they're all over England, is called McCarthy Stone. So that back to your point about the extensiveness of facilities, that is a decision as well as a cost price point decision to say what here. Do I want the full-on facilities, like I said, more like a members club where you have all got this, or actually do I just want a communal lounge? And that's absolutely fine for me. And as to rental or for sale, I wish we had both options for everywhere. So my angle is always about how you get more customers into these brilliant places. And the more choice you have from your financial situation gives people more choice. And some operators offer lots of different options, and many others, unfortunately, it's one or the other. And there's very reasons that are linked sometimes to that, or the investment model is dictating that, unfortunately, sometimes. But yeah, I wish everybody opened up much more options all the time, so it just wasn't another reason to prevent people from moving in.
Just to clarify, in the UK, is it an acquisition model or is it a rental model? Did I miss the point?
Both. It can be both.
It can be both.
It can be both. So some operators, like if I just say Birchgrove, they are rental. Whereas some operators, like Inspired Villages or Renaissance Villages, they offer both.
Okay. And is there any reason that rental is better than acquisition, or acquisition is better than rental? I mean, how does we have to remember, the listener probably won't have a clue as to what the pitfalls might be. So I'm trying to untangle a few pitfalls or opportunities for them. So how would you best describe it, do you think?
So yeah, I think let's go through. There's pros and cons for the, if you call it the acquisition, I'd say the for sale, but the acquisition model and the rental model. So if I say why people are typically renting more than for sale, they typically are of an older age, near the later years of their life, where they're working out how many maybe years do they have to live at that sort of price point, and they can be much more specific about that. Whereas a for sale acquisition model, more like we know on the open market or stuff, it's often more appealing to the younger end of the market.
Yeah, I suppose if you're renting, the time when you sadly pass, because we all will die at some point, then maybe you've got an easier out than if you're investing a capital sum into a property and you're tied into it and then you've got to resell it. Is that the way people might like to think about that?
People would like to think about that, and it's just much more straightforward with rental. Like you said, it's a fee, and it's a much simpler position you're in when that happens. With the sale or the acquisition, typically there's parts to it that make it more complicated, and more complicated for those who are involved when that's happened. So there's something called a deferred management fee. It has different names. Some people call it event fee, and that can be 20%, can be 30%. That means when that is sold on later, that amount goes back to the operator. And therefore that is definitely a stumbling block many times, with different family members thinking, well, I don't want that to happen. That's my inheritance or something.
Mm.
So as well as like a
Mm.
service charge, the acquisition model has a DMF. And well, that's probably a 10-hour conversation on its own, because within our sector, there's all different forms of DMF models, different percentages, different twists and turns that even investors and operator find it difficult getting their head around it. That's a definite area we wish to make easier going forward. There was recently something produced called the Older Persons Housing Force Report, which said that should be simplified. So people comparing, should I go to an Audley, should I go to an Oriens, they can just easily know, well, yeah, I understand those are the three different parts of the sale, and I can see more like for like what I would choose.
Not wanting to put anybody off investigating what we're talking about today, but it does sound to me that it's overly complex for the sake of the developer's benefit and not necessarily for the benefit of the purchaser. And I'm guessing, therefore, that whatever you decide to do in terms of later living, you should be speaking to a financial advisor, without doubt.
Advisor is a great, is an absolute great support person. So yeah, they offer a different impartial advice, absolutely, and that's their skill set, is to know that and model different ways for you. For instance, rental and for sale, you can put it through your model, you can make it very specific to you. So yeah, I would highly advise that. And yeah, I mean, obviously I'm always representing the customer and the customer point of view. And I think there's a lot of
Mm.
opportunity where people do need more transparency and simplicity to understand what that means, because otherwise, like we say, we're just going to keep this very low percentage of population living in this. So
Mm.
become
Mm.
a member of different associations such as ARCO and consumer codes, you have an obligation to be more transparent with your pricing and follow certain models of consumer code and policies. That does help, absolutely. And it's just how we make it even more forthcoming. So, that's what I do a lot in my life, is I go around assessing the prospect end-to-end journey. So from the moment someone is trying to find you, to then making a phone call, to coming on site, to follow up, and all of that, is how do you make that very easy and seamless for the customer and their families.
The problem for me, being devil's advocate, is that it can feel a bit like timeshare schemes back in the day, where people were shipped out to a foreign country, sold a pup that they're tied into for years and years because it all sounded so great because the sales guys were so good at what they did. And if you don't have a standardization, if you like, in these sort of schemes, perhaps there is a risk that the public will be thinking, well, it's something I don't quite understand and I don't want to get caught out, so I'm not actually going to go down that route.
Yeah, and like you say, that unfortunately will be the case for some people in the UK, and we have a way to go to fix that. So yeah, I hope we do change that, and I think again that comes back to people being armed with the information up front on digitally when they visit, and making it much more easy for people to do that, make that decision if it's right for them, because it is a life-changing emotional decision that has to be right. And it would be unethical and awful of any salesperson to push someone into that choice. It has to be their choice, because otherwise they'll just end up wanting to leave after 2 months or 6 months. That's no good for anyone.
No, you don't want a development half empty, do you? I mean, it's a bit like the Society of Later Life Advisors. I have a number of guests who've been on the podcast, and I was speaking to one earlier today. I mean, that isn't a government requirement that you have to be SOLA accredited in any way. People decide to do it because they want to be the best at what they do and the most ethical at what they do for seniors. Sounds to me as if maybe the developers, my get off soapbox moment is maybe they should think about that rather than just bowling forward without getting the whole industry on board, because they're going to sell more properties. They are. Anyway, just to top and tail this, are there any government incentives or financial support schemes available for these later life communities?
Yeah, I mean, there are, if we're talking about later living, here's another word. So I've just thrown into the mix. So as well as retirement living, so retirement communities, we often say later living. That is more and more becoming every day.
And there's me thinking I was getting good at this podcast. I have not got a clue. Not a clue.
Yes, later living incentives. Yes, I mean, if you went on now, firstly, just any of the different operators, you would see there are always different incentives trying to be offered to get people to move in. There's one I was looking at this morning that was about do something now because of the April changes coming up. So there's stamp duty and we will help you with this. There's offers around paying for a certain number of months of service charges. There's offers of it giving you a complimentary interior design package. There are all sorts of services financially. And like you say, with the wealth advisors as well, they would be able to specifically tell you if you were up for any sort of support as well. I think one of your other guests on this show, I remember the name of your guest, went through some options as well.
I mean, many people think that these retirement developments are really for the elderly and frail. Is that typically right? I mean, are people moving? I think care homes, the average age that people move into care homes these days is about 80 or something of that nature, because nobody wants to go into a care home. What sort of profile? Sorry, I'm going to answer the question a little bit for you. I drove past a development that said over 50s, and I'm thinking, over 50s? What? So is that a desperation of the developer to fill the spaces that they've got vacant? I mean, paint me a picture as to who's in these communities.
I think it is an aspiration for people to want younger people to move in, like say the over 55s, and maybe in 10 or 20 years, that could be a reality. It certainly is the case in America. You know, my brother lives there. I go there regularly. People find it a wonderful thing to look forward to. They call it the Golden Keys. They're really planning for it. It's whole different models, and everything is absolutely not like for like. You know, the majority of them are on a rental model, and so there's many different twists that aren't relevant for England. But yes, we might say for over 55s and want it to be more of what we call an aspirational buy versus a needs-based, more distress purchase where something has happened, unfortunately, in care homes or retirement villages. Often it's unfortunately, there was a trigger, there was a fall, there was a death. And it's how do we turn that on its head, which would be wonderful. It'd be wonderful for me as a marketing and salesperson if it was something more people did desire and want to go earlier. Because, there's lots of reports from Savills, Knight Frank's, CBRE that would tell you the average age for retirement villages is more like 82. So there's all sorts of ages. Don't get me wrong. There's the 60s and there's the hundreds, 102. But in England, because of this whole perception, cultural issue, man in his castle, it's still unfortunately not having a more younger demographic that we would like.
So making the assumption, therefore, that it is an older population in these schemes currently, hopefully changes in the future. Get that? What level of care is typically provided in these sort of retirement schemes? What's available to the elderly in those schemes? How does that work?
Yeah. So care, sometimes we call out care with a capital C or care with a small c. There's a continuum of care. And like say in care homes, people are much more understanding that there would be a higher need or a nursing need where someone might have dementia, memory loss support. In retirement villages, it is a different level of care that's being offered. So some of them do have care on site, a dedicated area or room where they offer their own care. Some, they partner with other care providers who would be outsourcing the care and bringing it in. And I guess one of the most common debates and topics I have with people in the sector at the moment is England moving to more like a blending of the two. So there are certain operators, I could name some to you, Jewish care, Richmond villages and life care residences that offer both. And so you could be coming in for more independent living or more care acuity needs. But it's more the case often than not that they are in different places. And if you look at other countries like New Zealand or America, they more often have a blending or a few on the same site. So this will be an interesting model to watch in England is do they blend more in future? So there is more of a range of continuum of care. But again, it's a whole thing linked to just how England consumers buy and sometimes thinking that people, don't want to see the other option available. It's a whole complicated pie.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that the type of schemes that we're talking about, you can buy your own care in, or some will have their own managed service provider that you can bring in when you need it. And the next sort of question that I think about is, if somebody living in the scheme has care needs and it increases over time, does it ever get to a point where they can't stay in the development?
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's all, like say, highly regulated and different policies depending on whether we're talking about care homes or retirement living. So if I go to the retirement living properties, many would be not viable to deal with dementia, for instance. So that is absolutely something that would need to be sounded out in the discovery phase and with accuracy and transparency to match the customer's needs, to say, if that is the case, we are not the right choice for you, and there's these and these other places that we could help you, liaise with.
And from your experience, are these developments pretty well integrated, as most things in the community are, with the NHS services and local authority care?
There's always a much greater need to be doing more integration with the community. I mean, there's a huge furore at the moment around NHS and social care. I think just as a general, if everyone could work together more in collaboration and understand solutions rather than often the fragmentation and the paradoxes that go on in funding, it would be much more beneficial to to us, to the population and the elderly and the families that are all affected, and the care workers and the employees. Everyone is affected.
We've picked a big subject again today, haven't we? I do this typically. I think this is such a simple subject, you know. You've already set me straight on retirement living, retirement schemes, retirement developments, care homes, nursing homes. It just goes on. Live-in care, in-home care, care at home. I mean, no wonder the public are confused. But let's sort of go back to the beginning, if you like, because we can talk about this another time, maybe when we do our road trip.
A road show,
Yeah, that's the idea of
Really.
getting out and about. That sounds like fun. Final thoughts, because we've covered so much ground as usual. If somebody is considering moving into a retirement development, can I call it that? Can I call it a retirement development?
Oh.
Thank you. Moving into retirement development, what would you recommend the first steps that they should be taking?
So I would, be hugely encouraging about them thinking that is a very plausible option for them. I would I would step into the psychology part, the whole needs around what is that driving that life-changing decision. So them really understanding that. And that's a whole vulnerable space to unlock and untangle around what is driving that. There's a lot of emotion there. There's triggers. There's, like I said, a lot of vulnerability for someone to think through what that is, because it has to be their own choice. And when you would then start doing your research and speaking to different operators, absolutely is great to look around. You would then see the variety of different options available, but think what does really truly match what I'm looking for. Everyone is absolutely different. So yeah, it's a life changing transition, and hopefully the different operators you'd meet and their I know sales can be a difficult word for some people, but customer relationship managers or consultants or the employees that you would meet would hopefully be great at supporting you to unlock what is your actual needs and how we can match them. Is this the right place for you indeed? And being a very visual person, absolutely go and visit them and spend time there. Many of them also offer a few free nights stay to really experience it yourself. I'd recommend doing it when there's an event on, so that you could see it in a thriving way. Talk to the residents themselves, because they'll absolutely give you the testimonials or not. Yeah, and then experiencing it for yourself and making a decision.
I like the idea of trying some of these high-end ones out myself. Maybe I should just put my name down, just have a little look around London whenever I go down there. I need a place to stay overnight. Airbnbs are nice, but if I could do a high quality. Oh dear, I make myself laugh. Forgive me, Ali. I've got another question. That's jumped into my head, and I need an answer, just out of curiosity. Is it the family, let's say the eldest daughter, that starts making these inquiries, or is it the 80-year-old that has got all of their mental capacity and they decide that they want to look at it? What's typical in terms of who makes this first step? I'm curious.
It is a brilliant question, because that is a lot of what I do is work out the marketing and sales for people. And the first step is clarifying who your target customer is. So that is the difference between, in simple terms, that is the difference between care homes and retirement living. That, as you said, absolutely, for the care homes, which I've spent, so much of my time in both sectors, for the care homes, it is often the children making the decision, the adult children. And research has shown it's often the eldest daughter making that decision. So when you would build personas, for segmentation, that's who you would be doing it around. And their needs would be around, reassurance and safety and all the care needs for mum. In retirement villages, though, like you say, coming back to the different proposition, often it is the actual resident themselves making the decision. But obviously there's no pure science to this. Sometimes it is we call them the influencers, the eldest children as well supporting them. And I think in both segments anyway, it just shows you the complexity of this decision, that you've got so many different stakeholders involved. It is such a tricky and complicated proposition from a sales and marketing point of view. If you think of other very high expensive goods, cars, yachts, it can just be more simple. Whereas here we're asking so many people for their opinion all the time, and independent financial advisors and wealth. And it's like, wow, it's a very complicated, nuanced sector.
Interesting. I'm really pleased to hear that it's actually the resident that decides, not more often than not. I'm not saying a percentage, but more often than not, that they want to move into this sort of environment. That's really pleasing to hear. Are there any particular websites or resources that you might recommend for people that want to, to explore a little bit more about this?
I think a very useful website for retirement communities is called arcouk.org, that I can give you the link. And that has on the homepage as well, a very table which breaks down these categories between retirement housing, IRCs and care homes, and gives you a whole host of resources. And then, I would recommend looking at a few different operators in England. There's about 30 of them. And I mean, all of them are listed on the ARCO website as members, but having a look at a few of them. But I would say really going to visit one, there's nothing like it. It will all open up as soon as you go and visit and talk to the people on the site. Yeah.
Well, we've come to the end. I feel as if we've just scratched the surface, but you know that. And the listeners have probably got 1,000 more questions. If anybody wants to reach out to you in any way, be it that a developer or somebody maybe from the listening population here, how do they find you?
Yeah, thank you. So would love to chat to anyone. My phone number is 0203 538 8018. So please call me, or equally my website is comaccel, comaccel.co.uk. And would love to have a conversation about, well, anything we've talked about or anything to do with boosting your occupancy, which is my skill.
Well, I think I might be calling the number because I'm now even more confused than when no, it's not true. I'm a little less. I'm spot on now. I've nailed it. I know exactly. If you tested me today, Ali, I'd have all the answers.
Well, I do regular retirement living quizzes and stuff. I just had one on my LinkedIn the other day where you could win a Kia Royale. So yeah, hopefully you'll find me on LinkedIn because I do a lot of quizzes around both segments.
Ali, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights. As we all know, retirement living is an option that many people do not understand, including me. And it's great to have expert advice on what to look for and what to consider. So for our listeners, if you found this episode useful, perhaps share, like, comment, and don't forget to listen to all the other episodes of Chasing Care, because there's just so much more information which will help you untangle the confusion that we all have about senior living. But until next time, take care.